3 weeks. That was exactly how long I was away on a business trip to Brasilia. And when I came back home to São Paulo, I thought I'd find the usual. A tight hug, a "I missed you" love, and that feijoada Fernanda makes like no one else. But no. Instead, she was standing there in the living room, serious like she was about to present a corporate project, handing me a printed document titled Restructuring Our Marriage, a Milestone for Equality. I stopped at the door, suitcase still in my hand, staring at the woman I'd been married to for 7 years. The same woman who laughed at my terrible puns, rolled her eyes when I left dishes in the sink, and danced with me in the kitchen on Friday nights to pagode. Now she was there with the expression of someone who had just discovered the formula for eternal happiness, saying she had attended a female empowerment workshop while I was gone, and that the workshop had opened her eyes to all the ways our marriage was, according to her, oppressive and patriarchal. "I need you to understand that I was living in a system that benefits you and harms me," she said, making air quotes with her fingers. "We need to rebuild the power dynamics of our relationship." I dropped my suitcase and just stared at her. The document was 3 pages long. The first page talked about redistribution of emotional labor. According to her new worldview, I only contributed money while she carried the invisible burden of remembering birthdays, planning barbecues with friends, organizing everything at home. Fair enough, I thought, until I got to the part where she wanted me to log my emotional contributions in a shared Google Drive spreadsheet. The second page was about equal division of household chores, everything categorized, weighted by difficulty and time, split exactly in half. Cooking by days of the week, cleaning by rooms, grocery shopping on a rotating schedule. She had created a chore chart like we were college roommates. But the third page, that's where it got surreal. It was titled Deconstructing Male Privilege. It was a list of how I needed to change the way I spoke, made decisions, and even sat on the couch. Manspreading, sitting with my legs open, was now a violation of shared space. "It's not about changing who you are," she explained with the calm of someone who had just discovered fire. "It's about recognizing the unconscious ways you perpetuate harmful patterns." I walked into the kitchen, opened the fridge, and grabbed a cold Brahma, the same beer I always drink from the same spot in the fridge. Nothing in the house had changed except her mind, and somehow that changed everything. "So let me get this straight. While I was working 60 hours a week to pay for this house, you were in a workshop learning that I'm the problem in our marriage?" She started explaining that financial contribution is not relationship contribution, that traditional gender roles create imbalance, that heteronormative expectations. She used terms like internalized patriarchy with the excitement of someone who had just learned English. I listened, nodding occasionally, asking about the task point system. When she finished, she looked at me, expecting resistance or immediate acceptance. Instead, I took the document, read it again calmly, and said, "You know what? You're right. We should make our marriage more equal. When do we start?" The relief on her face was instant. She was ready for a fight, not full agreement. She started talking about timelines, monitoring, and success metrics for the new framework. I finished my beer, smiling inside. She wanted equality. She was about to get more equality than she ever imagined. The next morning, her alarm went off at 6:30 a.m. According to the new system, each person was responsible for their own morning routine. No more me getting up first to make coffee. No more her bringing me a cup while I got dressed. Now we were independent units living in the same house. I watched her stumble into the kitchen, expecting coffee to magically appear. Instead, she found the coffee maker empty and a note from me. "Day 1 of equitable coffee distribution. Monday is your turn." She stared at the paper for a good 10 seconds before muttering something about malicious compliance as she struggled with the filter. I was already in my suit when she came out of the kitchen, still in pajamas, holding a half-full cup. "You could have made coffee for both of us," she complained. "That would violate the domestic equality framework," I replied, grabbing my keys. "Page 2, coffee preparation on Mondays is your responsibility. I don't want to perpetuate the patriarchal pattern of doing for you what you can do for yourself." The look on her face was priceless. She opened her mouth, closed it, and realized she couldn't complain about me following her own rules. That night, I came home to another stack of papers. She had expanded the document with communication protocols and conflict resolution guidelines. She had created an entire system to handle what she called resistance behaviors and passive-aggressive responses to the new framework. "Do I need permission to have an opinion now?" I asked. "It's not permission," she explained patiently. "It's creating space for productive dialogue, recognizing when your male conditioning prevents authentic participation." She categorized male communication problems: dismissive responses, logical deflection, emotional shutdown, defensive rationalization, each category with examples and corrections. I studied the document and said, "You're right again. I'll need time to internalize these protocols." She looked satisfied, thinking she had corrected me. Little did she know I was going to give her exactly what she asked for, applied with the same rigidity she demanded from me. That night, in my home office, I started creating my own document. Simple title: Practical Applications of Reciprocal Expectations in Marriage. The next morning, during breakfast, which I made because Tuesday was my day, I handed her the folder. "Your performance metrics," I said, sipping my coffee. "If we're going to restructure our marriage with equality and accountability, we need measurable results on both sides." She opened it and read, "Reciprocal Expectations Framework, Relationship Contribution Tracking." I had spent hours building a mirrored system, but focused on tangible outcomes. Section 1. Financial Contribution Tracking. Every bill, every expense, logged with source and decision authority. Spreadsheets showing mortgage, electricity, water, groceries, everything color-coded by who paid. "This is ridiculous. Marriage isn't a business transaction," she said. "Exactly my point. But if we're going to treat contributions like a balance sheet, we need to include all of them, not just the ones that support your argument." Section 2. Reciprocal Communication Standards. If I had to acknowledge male conditioning before disagreeing, she had to acknowledge emotional reasoning before demanding. If I tracked defensive patterns, she tracked manipulative patterns. Section 3. Equality in Emotional Labor. If she wanted me to remember birthdays, she had to mow the lawn, change the car oil, and handle home repairs. "You seriously expect me to change the car oil?" she said. "Why not? It's just labor. According to your workshop, dividing tasks by gender is a patriarchal construct. Are you saying some tasks are more appropriate for men?" She opened her mouth, then closed it. She had cornered herself. Final section. Accountability metrics. Every violation logged. Every instance of applying rules differently for each of us documented. "This is petty," she said, pushing the folder away. "This is equality," I corrected. "You wanted to eliminate imbalance. I'm just making sure the balance goes both ways." That afternoon, I implemented everything with the same enthusiasm she had shown. When she asked me to pick up clothes from the dry cleaner because she was running late, I politely refused. It wasn't Tuesday, my errand day. When she suggested ordering pizza because she didn't feel like cooking, I reminded her that meal planning is emotional labor, and last-minute changes would be logged as deviations. That night, she wanted to discuss modifying the system, but according to her own protocols, she first had to acknowledge that resistance could come from privilege and examine whether it served the relationship or just protected her comfort zone. "That's not what I meant," she finally said. "Then what did you mean?" I asked. "I wanted you to be more aware of how you contribute, not for us to turn into a competition. But you're the one who divided our marriage into categories, points, and accountability metrics. I'm just applying the same standard to both of us." She went silent, staring at the papers spread across the table. For the first time, I saw a glimpse of Fernanda I knew, the one who understood that relationships work on mutual respect, not spreadsheets.
On Thursday, the washing machine started making a strange noise. "Appliance maintenance on Thursdays is your technical responsibility," I said. "I don't know how to fix a washing machine," she said. "I didn't either when I learned. YouTube has great tutorials, very empowering." She gave me a look that could melt steel. That night, she tried a different approach. "Maybe we could collaborate to find a solution." "Interesting," I said, updating my spreadsheet. "Are you suggesting natural aptitude should override ideological purity?" She had no answer. On Saturday, the machine died completely. The sink was full of dishes. It was her turn on Wednesday, but she worked late and postponed without approval. She needed clean clothes for work. The laundromat opens at 7. Laundry expenses fall under your discretionary spending quota. She looked at me with genuine disbelief. "You're really going to make me take everything to the laundromat because the washer broke?" "I'm not forcing you to do anything. I'm following the system you created." She packed the clothes into trash bags, made 3 trips, and came back 2 hours later exhausted. "The machines ate my coins, and some guy kept trying to help me fold laundry." "Did we log the loss in the spreadsheet?" I asked. That's when she broke. She sat on the couch, surrounded by damp clothes and papers, and just stared at the wall. "This isn't working," she said quietly. "No, but it's working exactly as designed. You turned our marriage into a contract between roommates, not a partnership between people who love each other." "I thought I was fixing things." "What things needed fixing?" She was silent for a long time. "I felt like I did everything and you didn't notice how much it cost to keep our home running. So instead of talking to me about feeling unappreciated, you decided to restructure everything based on a weekend workshop." She looked at me with tears in her eyes. "I missed you when you were away, and instead of just saying that, I convinced myself missing you was a dependency I needed to correct. So I tried to become independent and made us miserable." I sat down next to her. "You spent all that energy trying to make our relationship equal, but you turned it into less partnership and more confrontation." "I know," she said, leaning against me. "I turned us into opponents instead of a team." "The workshop didn't teach you how to improve a marriage. It taught you how to find problems that only their solutions can fix." She squeezed my hand. "I want to throw all these papers away." "And equality, feminist theory, restructuring power dynamics? I want to throw away everything that makes us treat each other like enemies instead of partners."
On Saturday morning, I woke up to the smell of fresh coffee and her softly singing in the kitchen, not because it was her day on the schedule, but because she woke up first and wanted to make coffee for both of us. "Good morning," she said, handing me a cup. "I've been thinking about what you said, about being partners, not adversaries." The dining table was clean. She had thrown all the papers away. Sitting in that laundromat yesterday, watching couples help each other while I struggled alone because of my own rules, I realized I turned our marriage into a prison where no one could be generous without violating some principle. And now I want to fix the washing machine together, not to prove anything to anyone, but because we need clean clothes and you know how to fix it. I smiled. That sounds suspiciously like traditional gender roles. Maybe some traditions exist because they work, not because they're oppressive. She sat across from me. I spent so much energy proving our natural dynamic was wrong that I forgot to ask if it was actually working for us. It was working. Yes, but I didn't recognize it. I was looking for problems instead of appreciating what we had. "So what do you want now?" "I want to thank you when you fix things instead of resenting you because I don't know how. I want to cook when I feel like it, not when a spreadsheet tells me to. I want to ask for help without turning it into a political statement. And I want you to notice when I do things that make your life easier and tell me you appreciate it, not because equality demands recognition, but because appreciation feels good." I reached across the table and took her hand. I appreciate what you do. I always have. I just assumed you knew. I didn't until I convinced myself appreciation was patriarchal conditioning meant to keep me quiet in an unequal arrangement. That workshop really got to you. It taught me to see problems everywhere and solutions nowhere. But you taught me something more important this week. Equality and partnership are not the same thing. Partnership is each person contributing what they're good at and covering the other's weaknesses. Equality is forcing both people to be good at everything and ending up mediocre at most things. I stood up and kissed her forehead. So we're done with feminist theory? We're done with letting theory override reality. If a theory makes our lives worse, the theory is wrong, not our lives. Great, now let's fix that machine together. Together, not because a spreadsheet demanded it, but because that's what partners do. As we walked to the laundry room, I realized the woman I married was still there, under all the ideology and spreadsheets. She just needed to remember that love isn't something you restructure according to external principles. It's something you build together, day after day, choosing each other again and again. The problem was just a loose belt. 20 minutes later, everything was back to normal. No documentation required. If you made it this far, consider subscribing to the channel. It helps us a lot to keep bringing you these stories. I picked 2 videos I'm sure you'll enjoy. Click on them, and I'll see you in the next story. Goodbye.